Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Carla and Crappy Show. I am Uncle Crappy. My friend over there is Carla. Hi, Carla.
I'm here.
This is week 3 of the college football season, including week 0. So once again, I've committed to this awful math problem that I have to figure out every day when we record this once a week. So it's week 4 of the Carla and Crappy Show, and I think week 3, Carla was fantastic. I can't of all the reasons I had to be happy about Ohio State beating Arkansas State, a Sun Belt team last Saturday. It was among those are the reason that Arkansas State didn't beat Ohio State, because there was a lot of that from the Sun Belt last weekend.
Yeah. And it's really funny is I mean, obviously it's probably the best Saturday in Sun Belt history. There's a story on the NCAA website that I found today where they talked to the Sun Belt commissioner about his day on Saturday and how he was trying to keep track of all these games. And it's a really interesting read. Like, he was listening to radio calls, and he had like one game on his phone and another game on the radio in his car. And, the experience of you get one of these games because they've got Appy State now, right? And Appy State pulls one of these off every couple of seasons.
Just test our friends in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Hey.
But to have 3 in the same day, and I have to give credit where credit is due, because after the insanity of Saturday, I went back and listened to our show again on Sunday. And I have to give a tip of the hat to our good friend AJ, who in his group of 5 report alerted / warned all of us that Marshall, App State, and Georgia Southern were potential upset opportunities.
Yes. Yes.
And they all came true. And what a crazy day of football it was.
It was, it has gone nuts when, when the normally sort of staid ESPN guys start talking about the Fun Belt, in the nickname that everybody else uses. But that is, I mean, the reputation of that conference is we go anywhere, we play anybody, we do not care. And Saturday, for sure, it paid off for them in a huge way. I don't know. Did you have any other takeaways from last weekend besides holy crap Fun Belt?
A couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, Bama looked mortal.
Right.
Had Texas figured out their offense after Quinn Ewers got hurt, they would have won that football game. I
feel like they I don't know that it would have been. I mean, it's not a blowout, but if they have Quinn in quarterback, and the guy that they've been comfortable with, I mean, they could win by a couple touchdowns.
It's what it felt like. I agree. I think they probably could have won by 14 points. It was shocking in some ways. Lots of penalties. The most penalties that I've seen Bama take in a long, long time. So again, this brings the question of, is Texas back? Big challenge, and we'll talk about this later. Is Ewers being out for 4 to 6. With the injury, which sucks. Because when you see a team that has the potential to maybe do some weird things for the season, disrupt some things, it sucks when you had your offense really doing some really nice things, and then to lose your quarterback. It just hate it when that happens. Other thing is the thing we started last week that you asked me to keep doing. The weekend was so bonkers I don't even remember what happened, because that applies this week again. Oh, hey, does anybody remember that Wazoo upset Wisconsin in Madison?
They did what?
Because that's a thing that happened. And normally that would have been like, headlines.
And that would have been a game that I would have stuck with through everything, and I barely watched it because there was so much other stuff going on.
Yeah. I barely saw that game. I only watched like 3 or 4 snaps of the Penn State game. because there was so much other stuff happening in that noon window. I was flipping around so much. I was keeping an eye on the score to make sure nothing bonkers was going on.
Right.
But I mean, I was going to watch other games that were a lot closer than what, once Penn State went up a couple scores, I was like, okay, I'm going to flip over here.
Okay, fine.
And watch Texas, Alabama.
You can stop. You can stop now.
Anyhow, one last thing.
Yes.
I have to give a shout out to my MTSU Blue Raiders.
Okay.
Who went on the road and knocked off Colorado State in Fort Collins.
Wow. Okay.
So, after losing badly to James Madison in week 1, then going on the road and knocking off Colorado State, that's a nice little win.
Absolutely.
I'll take that check mark.
What conference is what conference are they in now?
Middle?
Yes.
Middle's in CUSA. We are a CUSA team.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm this is all going to get reshuffled in a couple of years and I'll have to relearn everything again. But
yeah. Exactly.
I'm still. We had the opportunity to talk to a class that belonged to a colleague of Carla's at Middle earlier in the week, which I guess would have to be yesterday since it's only Tuesday. And I mentioned then that I'm still bothered by the fact that we could not get Middle Tennessee in the Mid-American Conference. That would have been so much fun.
Yeah. I will willingly admit I was disappointed by that too. But I have some sources in the athletic department because I'm doing some work with them. And I found out the reason why that ended up not happening, and I understand the logic. I'm probably not able to disclose that, but not on the record on the show. But
fine.
Yeah. But it, as much as it pains me to say it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. But I mean, the CUSA is kind of the lost group of 5 conference right now. I think, like it was grasping at straws when teams started leaving for the Sun Belt. And, it's just kind of a weird mix of teams there right now.
It is. And they don't have, but I mean, the Sun Belt had an identity before last weekend.
Yeah.
But now, yay. They have the conference has gone a long way just in one Saturday to establish itself as being the little guys that you need to be careful of. The one thing that I wanted to touch with on this segment. Okay, the two things very, very briefly. I am more pleased with Ohio State each week. Just a couple snap judgments. DBs gave up too much yardage on Saturday. But sticking with the defense, linebacker play, wow, night and day compared to a year ago. So I mean that's what experience does. That's what the confidence of confidence that comes with that experience does. So yeah, I in addition to being thankful that Ohio State didn't get smoked by a Sun Belt team like some other conferences, like some other schools.
Yeah,
that was good. Here's the thing, but we both talked about this. You mentioned looking back at AJ's picks. I know I think we both felt pretty good about BYU with Baylor. And handling them at home, and I'm so happy, even though I did not stay up and watch a single play of this game.
AJ and I were up. We stayed up together through the first half.
I'm aware.
Because we were texting you and you were asleep.
I saw that thread when I woke up. But I mean, so I got to brag on that. They handled Baylor. A tight game, and it is certainly not like the Lavelle Edwards teams that you remember. Where Jim McMahon and Steve Young are throwing for 18,000 yards a game. Yeah. But what they did do, I know they want to be more balanced than that at BYU these days, but they're having a tough time running the ball against the Bears defense. So then maybe Lavelle Edwards shows up. They changed it up. They threw the ball. They moved the ball. And they came away winning. And the cool thing is, if you're trying to figure out a non-Power 5 team that makes the playoffs, you have to like where BYU is right now, because it's not like Cincinnati in that they have basically one game against a Power 5 school. or in Cincinnati's instance, it was the game at Notre Dame last year. They're not tethered to a weak conference schedule. They have several opportunities to beat Power Five schools coming up, from now until the end of November, including a fairly hefty one next week that I think we're going to talk about here shortly. Yeah. But I was impressed with BYU. And I think they're in a really interesting position. If they're, just win, baby. And if you do that, they're going to be up towards the top at the end of the season.
And they're going to have a darn good resume.
Yeah, they would. Yeah. They would. AJ, I have not spoken to AJ. I can hear him living in the same city. I can hear AJ physically vibrating still after the weekend that the Sun Belt had, and he's got another preview for us, and we're hopefully his blood pressure is better. He's a little more relaxed after just the chaos of last weekend. Here's what AJ is going to be looking for this weekend. AJ.
Hey everyone, it's the Group of Five After Dark report. I'm singing because we got to be really honest with ourselves here. This is why I tell you about the G5 teams, so that when you watch games like Georgia Southern at Nebraska, or Texas A&M and App State, or Marshall and Notre Dame, that you pay attention to those games, that you might find interest in those games, and maybe, just maybe, something fun might happen. Like, I don't know, App State beating Texas A&M at home, and Marshall beating Notre Dame at home, and Georgia Southern beating Nebraska at home and getting Scott Frost fired. That's all. Listen, there's a lot of great G5 teams out there, and I just need you to pay attention to them, because these teams, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, and Nebraska, paid a combined $4.1 million for the pleasure of getting beat at home. They played these as cupcake games. Turns out the cupcakes were poisoned. This is the first time in the AP poll era, that's since 1936, that Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and Nebraska all lost at home on the same day. And they all lost to the Sun Belt. All hail the Sun Belt, your world-destroying conference this year. But we got to get into this week's games. There's a bunch. This is the reason why I tell you them. So just keep that in mind. Friday, Air Force at Wyoming, 8 p.m., CBS-SN, the Network of Champions. We love to see Mountain West action on a Friday night. We also love to see two teams in the American West have a game they can bust to. That doesn't happen very often. Air Force is low-key good, possibly really good. Their offense is crazy. They're like number one in the country in EPA right now. That is expected points average. But their pass defense is super suspect. The American Air Force being bad at defending attacks through the air, who would have thought? Honestly, who would have thought? Wyoming doesn't have an attack through the air, so Air Force should probably roll through this one. Saturday, Western Kentucky at Indiana. That's at noon, Big Ten Network. Keep an eye on this game, because Western Kentucky has a pretty good passing offense, even though they lost their offensive coordinator to Texas Tech and Bailey Zappi to the NFL. But Indiana doesn't have a pass defense. They're like bottom 10 in the country in pass defense. Western Kentucky might sneak up on Indiana here. Western can't run the ball, though, so Indiana's very good rush defense doesn't really have anything to do here. This should be a relatively evenly matched game, so it should be fun. The only way I could see this not going Western Kentucky's way is if Indiana can actually get to Western Kentucky's quarterback. But we shall see. Rutgers at Temple, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. We always salute teams that play local-ish rivalries. This is not an actual rivalry game. It's just Temple's in Philly and Rutgers is New Jersey. Like, we love regional bits like this. They're in different conferences, so they don't play each other very often. But Rutgers should roll here. We just wanted to make sure that we recognized the teams from the mid-North Atlantic. Sound off in the comments if you know better geography for Philly and New Jersey in terms of the overall East Coast. ODU at Virginia, 2 p.m. ACC Network. Virginia, what are you doing? What? Nope. ODU already beat Virginia Tech. They're coming for the Commonwealth Cup. If they beat Virginia, I don't give a damn what you want to call the Virginia Tech-Virginia game. ODU already won the Commonwealth Cup. Sorry. The ECU loss for ODU was a big letdown look-ahead sandwich. Shout out to the Solid Verbal. That is where you have you got up for a big game, you won, and then the next week you have an opponent that's not too good, and you're looking ahead to the week after that where you have a bigger opponent coming. Letdown look-ahead sandwich. They beat Virginia Tech. They had UVA this week. And then they lost to a good ECU team. To be honest, the ECU loss is not so bad. It's the way that they lost it. It wasn't a close game. ECU was a missed extra point away from beating NC State, or at least having the opportunity to beat NC State. So I expect this to be a really, really good game. I expect ODU to bounce back and to beat UVA because UVA scored 3 points while getting 4 turnovers last week against Illinois. UVA is butt, is what I'm saying, and ODU should win this game. BYU at Oregon, 3:30 p.m. on Fox. This is the magic of BYU scheduling. This is the fun stuff of being an independent. You can get really, really great games early in the year because everybody has non-con schedules that they need to fill out, and BYU, being an independent, not in a conference, they can be a really great name on your schedule. Do not perceive BYU's last 5 games. They're not good. And that's because everybody's in conference play. So this is the magic of BYU scheduling. We get an Oregon game week 3. BYU Baylor was a banger. And there are more people saying BYU to the playoff. We'll see. What they need to do is they need to prove themselves deeply in the first 6 weeks so that when they play in November that they are not just getting knocked down the totem pole because they're playing a team like Utah Tech, real team that they're actually playing. Oregon looked great last week. They hung 70 on Eastern Washington. That is what an Oregon team is supposed to do to a team, even a good FCS team like Eastern Washington. So there's some things here. This could be fun. Troy at App State, 3:30 p.m. ESPN Plus. Currently, I'm recording this Wednesday morning. This is still on ESPN Plus. I don't know if ESPN is trying to leverage bringing game day to Boone after App State beat Texas A&M, bringing game day there to try to promote ESPN Plus games. But it seems really silly to bring game day to a game that is not on any sort of ESPN major network and is paywalled. I've also ranted before about the quality of ESPN Plus games. Hopefully the game day crew can stick around with the good cameras and broadcast this game, because ESPN Plus games generally look like butt. They look like they are broadcast by local TV crews because they kind of are. So I hope this gets bumped up to the ESPN feed and they get the good cameras. App coming off a great game. Troy has a good rushing defense, and App State loves to run the ball. So this should potentially be sneaky good. A lot of people are overlooking Troy because App State obviously just beat Texas A&M, but neither here nor there. This should be a good game. Hopefully it gets bumped to ESPN so everybody gets a chance to watch it. 3:30 p.m. on Stadium, Georgia Southern at UAB. Clay Helton got somebody fired. That's a new sentence. Georgia Southern's offense is great. UAB's defense is great. UAB's offense isn't so good. Georgia State's defense isn't so good. Let's see who breaks first. I'm picking the Eagles here. 4 p.m. ESPNU. We have Kansas at Houston. Y'all want to see some points? Y'all looking for some of them things that go on the scoreboard? Because this is a pointsy game waiting to happen. Sorry about losing to Texas Tech, Cougs. Your playoff dreams, probably dead. And here's Kansas, who just went into Morgantown and beat WVU. And I'm going to keep it real here with all my WVU fans. Y'all don't have a defense. Kansas played well on the road in a hostile environment. This might be good. And Kansas going to Houston, they're going to play at Houston, not in NRG and some neutral-ish site game. No, they're playing on campus at Houston, and we love to see that. If the Cougs play even moderately better defense than WVU did, they'll win. UTSA at Texas, 8 p.m. on the Longhorn Network. Speaking of a letdown look-ahead sandwich, Texas is playing UTSA. Texas should have beat Bama. I'm just going to say that right now. Bryce Young was tackled. That should have been a safety. Texas should have won the football game. They didn't, and now they have deep potential to get meeped. Sorry, Texas. This might be bad for you, and all of the goodwill that you earned, the moral victory that you earned by almost beating Bama. Scoreboard watch this game, please. Now, I have been monitoring the status of my wonderful late slate because this is the Group of Five report after dark. And the after dark slate last week was bananas. I was four wide at almost midnight. It was great. And more of you should join me at midnight watching these very stupid games. Go look up Jaden DeLora interception and just marvel at what can happen after dark. But let's get to the late slate this week because we got a couple heaters. San Diego State at Utah, 10 p.m. ESPN2. I had already penciled this in as a great and fun time, like week 0, week 1 time frame. San Diego State is bad. This is not like I can't like even sugarcoat it. They are bad. They are bad all the way around. They don't have an offense of which to speak. Their pass defense is kind of butt. The only thing they have is a good run defense. And Utah figured out how to throw the ball on offense. Cameron Rising is rising as a quarterback. So this might be ugly. Hopefully this one's wrapped up by midnight. Fresno State at USC, 10:30 p.m. on Fox, the network, the one that goes over the air to your antenna nationwide. They're putting the late night god Jake Haener on national network television. I love to see this. If Ohio State could be a peach, and this is more for my friend Crappy, if Ohio State could just be a peach and wrap up that Toledo game that they have at 7, they could just wrap that up early, we would really, really appreciate it because I want to see Jake Haener do stuff to USC. This game should be pointy as hell. Lincoln Riley throwing the ball on Fresno throwing the ball on USC because, by the way, Stanford put up 20-plus on USC's defense. USC's defense ain't much to speak of. So the nation would appreciate this. Let Jake Haener cook on national television. 11 p.m. FS1, North Dakota State at Arizona. Again, I continue to ask the FBS team of the world, what are you doing scheduling anything with Dakota in the name? And not only did you schedule a Dakota, you scheduled North Dakota State, a.k.a. the meat tenderizer, a.k.a. how the sausage gets made, a.k.a. round to ice baths, a.k.a. you don't have the facilities. Jaden DeLora's fun. That offensive line is going to get him killed. Bison roll in this game. And finally, 12 a.m. Eastern on Spectrum, Duquesne at Hawaii. Hawaii, I love you so much. I'm sending you a part of my city to warm your hearts. Go get yourself a win and get your chins up. Go Bows, forever. I know it's been rough, but we're here for you. We know you're getting better. Progress is being made. Go Bows. That has been this week's Group of 5 After Dark report. Join me for a wacky, fun Saturday. We'll see you then.
Thank you, Dr. Kuftik. We appreciate your input, your opinions, as always. Probably do with a little less gloating, but that's fine. You earned it last weekend for sure. Before we get to our games, one other quick aside. Cornell opens its season at 1:30 Saturday afternoon. It is on ESPN Plus, by the way, with a non-conference game. They are playing at VMI. My nephew Drew, who is a tailback at Cornell and was lined up in line for some significant playing time this year. As if you did not hear, he broke a finger in his left hand a few weeks ago. A diagnosis eventually was cast for 6 to 8 weeks, and then we'll see what happens. So he's well into that sentence, but he is not. He will not be playing this week. Will not be playing in September. we're still we still could see him fairly early to mid October, I think, if we're being optimistic. So we have that to come, but we are still going to keep tabs on the Big Red Bears in the meantime. So among the reasons for joining us next week is your very first official Big Red Bears game report of the season, and I know you're looking forward to that.
Woo! Hey, I love FCS football. Like, it's great.
It's
college football.
This isn't really even FCS football. I mean, the Ivy League is an odd thing in a lot of ways because they do things their own way in a lot of ways. But yeah, I and if you listen to the show last year, you know that I had a blast, and I think AJ and Carla did too, to a point. Watching Ivy League football and seeing how this goes to the degrees that they did, and I'm looking forward to that. Once again, there are a couple ways one could look at the big boy schedule for this week. There is a glass half empty view, which is, wow, there's not much here. A lot of games, not sure there's much meaningful. Certainly not a lot of ranked on ranked. The glass half full version, however, is that there are storylines all over the place this weekend. They are insane. They are everywhere. And we are going to try to talk about all of them.
Because we are insane like that.
we have 8. We narrowed it down to the finest 8 games of the weekend. Which also means we're gonna do our first speed round of the first Carlin Crappy speed round of the season.
This is gonna be like I gotta like get my arms going and like get back.
Well, no, there's a thing in my notes here. It says stretching. It's right there. So yeah.
Because I didn't do a lightning show last year because I haven't done a lightning show since I think Maction. I think the night that we just talked about this in the class that we were guest lecturing in, the Maction show that we did in 2020 when we literally did a sprint show to do every game in the MAC because they all played on the same night during 2020 when they opened their season. So yeah, it's been a while. See if I've got this.
For us, a speed round means like 2 or 3 sentences per game. So we can get through these as quickly as we can. I have confidence that this is going to work really well. Okay.
Go team.
In chronological order. Noon, big nude. In fact, number 6 Oklahoma at Nebraska. OU is favored by 11.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is a respectable 67. Carla, what do you think?
I mean, the big storyline here is how does Nebraska respond to the Scott Frost firing, right? I mean, that's the whole reason. I mean, this is a rivalry game. It's an intriguing game to begin with every time it's played. But this year, could we have any more intrigue than Scott Frost getting fired after Nebraska loses to Georgia Southern at home? So that's what the storyline is here. How does Nebraska respond to all of that? This rivalry. See, there we go. Rivalry. This rivalry went away for a decade, came back last year, and Oklahoma won, but the game was way closer than it should have been.
Yes.
So could that kind of thing happen here if Nebraska is up? The one thing here is that, the Nebraska defense has been really, really bad. And the Oklahoma offense has been what you would expect, but the Sooners have played cupcakes so far. They haven't really faced a test. So there is so much intrigue in this game. You have to take Oklahoma. They've got the more consistent offense. The Nebraska defense is bad, but this game, don't lose track of this game. It's kind of the only one we're talking about in the noon window. So yeah, keep an eye on this one because I think this is going to be much closer than anybody expects.
That was not 3 sentences.
It was still faster than I normally do.
True. Absolutely true. As Carla said, the intrigue here is just like, where are the Huskers at this point? The firing, maybe the timing of Scott Frost firing was a bit of a surprise, but really, I don't know that you could claim to be stunned that this happened. The reason why this could be a good game, Nebraska is it's better than its record and has been for a couple seasons. They lose close games, single touchdown games all the time. And if the team is sort of galvanized by everything that's happened the past week, this could be a tight game. Oklahoma's still a pick. Still could be a tight game.
Yep.
3:30 p.m. On CBS. Carla's number 22 Penn State Nittany Lions are at Auburn. This is the return game of the home and home that kicked off with a whiteout last fall. Penn State is favored by 3. The AJ Fundin index is a pathetic 47 points. Carla.
And you're right. It was an amazing game last year in Beaver Stadium in the whiteout. Penn State found a running back this week against Ohio. Freshman Nick Singleton ran for, I think a $180, I think was his final tally on that. And that's awesome because the Penn State offense hasn't had a run game in a couple of seasons. I mean, it's been a while. But early season, the Auburn defense has actually been really good at stopping the run. But that being said, there are a lot of challenges on the Auburn sideline too, right? Auburn had to eke out over San Jose State last week. And Auburn has the situation that we all loathe because we know the saying here on the Carla and Crappy Show. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. And that's exactly the situation that Auburn is in right now. So as a Penn State fan, I take great solace in that. The Penn State defense has been spectacular so far this season. Penn State doesn't, and the challenge with Penn State's been its offense. We didn't get a good gauge other than that run game last week because it was Ohio. I think the defense can shut down the Auburn offense. I don't think Penn State's offense is going to have to score a bunch.
Right.
So I actually feel pretty good about picking my Nits in this game. And normally this would be a game that I would have like my spidey sense up, like, this is, kind of a trap game here. Now I
agree. I don't feel that way at all.
I feel pretty good.
Okay. Obviously, Penn State doesn't have to score a lot. I agree, and Las Vegas has too. Hence, the feeble AJ Fun index of 47 points. I think there can be. I get concerned about playing cupcakes, and I don't want to characterize my Bobcats as cupcakes. But there's a reason they're going to State College in September to play football. There's value in a game like that for a team like Penn State in that you improve timing. You get a lot of people experience. You get your starters a lot of experience. And you can really just concentrate on execution. So, what winning a game like that can actually have it actually has outsized value over just beating a Mid-American Conference opponent. They're going to, I think, the progress that they made and the addition of a solid running game will be a huge factor. But I think they'll be able to keep that going in a tough environment, what I assume will be a tough environment in Jordan-Hare Stadium on Saturday afternoon. Also at 3:30 p.m. Saturday on ESPN Plus, which seems odd after game day is showing up there for the morning program. Troy at Appalachian State. Appy is favored by 12.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is 52.5. What do you think?
I mean, Boone gets game day, which is huge. All the national attention, but not the national broadcast. Like, that's just like, why? The game is paywalled behind ESPN Plus. Super disappointing. I wish they would have rearranged the schedule and like made that happen. Like, let's live in Fun Belt glory this weekend. After the weekend of college football they put up last week. Once again, for the nth year, App State proves it's the team that no one should ever want to play. Can it capitalize on this momentum and win a game it should at home? I think they should. I just wish more people were going to be able to see it. So App State at home.
True. I wrote a haiku for this game.
I love it.
Game day goes to Boone. Troy is not scared, but perhaps the Trojans should be. Is it clear who I'm picking?
I think so.
Okay. It occurred to me at some point we can do an all haiku show.
That would be more challenging than the lightning round show.
Next up at 7:30 on ABC, number 11, Michigan State at Washington. The Huskies are favored by 3.5 points. The AJ Fun Index, middle of the road, 56.5. Carla, what do you think?
This is this week's We Have No Idea game, right? We get one of these every week in the early part of the season. Both these teams have only played cupcakes. Both defense look really good. Both offenses look solid. Yes. Sparty's ranked. Washington's favored on the road. Which team's for real? I give the edge here to Sparty playing at home. They had a spectacular season last year. They look to be capitalizing on that now. But really, this is it's a coin flip because we really don't know anything about either of these teams. I'll take Sparty because they're playing at home in Big Ten. But this should be entertaining.
As we talked last week, when you see the home team favored by 3.5, you know what's going on here. Las Vegas is like, this is a game that the home guy should probably lose. And that's so with that number, you have to assume it's there for a good reason. Washington's got a great start defensively against, again, we're talking about cupcake opponents here, largely allowing just 13 points a game. Sparty's defense, however, is allowing half that total. And I think against better opponents, Michigan State wins. This one I have to back up because I skipped a 3:30 game in my excitement to get to my haiku for Appy State. I skipped probably what is the actual marquee game of the 3:30 time slot on Fox. Number 12 BYU at number 25 Oregon. The Ducks are favored. Wait for it. By 3.5 points.
Yeah.
The AJ Fun Index is a 57.5. What do you think about this one?
We kind of covered it in the open in our comments, but the idea, I mean, you said this last week, BYU is fearless. And so what's more fearless than hosting Baylor at home and then the very next week saying, okay, let's go to Eugene and play a perennially good Ducks team.
Yeah.
Right. BYU won that game in double overtime by refusing to give up on the run. They're a running team, but it was a running score that it was a touchdown run. They just refused to give up. Even after 2 potential game-winning field goal opportunities that they missed. So I mean, if that's the definition of slogging to a win,
there
it is. Last time, on the flip side, the last time we saw Oregon nationally was getting bulldozed by Georgia. They blew out Eastern Washington last week. How did the Ducks respond? Right? They get a national time slot here. They're back in the national spotlight playing another really good team. Super intriguing game. I wish it wasn't at 3:30 because I'm going to be otherwise occupied. I double screens at 3:30.
Yes.
I'm going to say Cougars here.
Okay.
I feel good about what they did against Baylor, but man, that's a huge ask to take Baylor and Oregon in consecutive weeks. We'll see if the Cougars have stamina. If they win this, they're setting themselves up for a potential playoff.
Yeah, this would be a huge win from them as they start to go through the season. Do you see good Bo Nix, bad Bo Nix? I think against a defense that's going to be physical. I think that could pressure the Ducks offense into bad Bo Nix territory. I'm sticking with Brigham Young here. I don't know. It feels like it would be an upset, but I don't know that it is at this point. Either way, going with the Cougars, going with the Fighting Edwardses. At 8 p.m. on Saturday on the Longhorn Network. I don't know if the Longhorn Network exists outside of the state of Texas.
I have it.
Do you?
I do. Yes. YouTube TV. We have the Longhorn Network.
Oh, well, that's great. You'll be able to watch this game.
I'm very excited about this game.
I suspect it is buried somewhere in like the ESPN3, ESPN Plus streaming package that I own, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time looking for it. The 8 p.m. on Longhorn Network. Meep at number 21, Texas. The Horns are favored by 11 points. The AJ Fun Index is a solid 62.5. What do you think?
Is this the Heartbreaker Bowl? I mean, both of these teams, you know, UTSA had Houston in their sights a couple weeks ago, then lost in an epic overtime battle.
Yep.
Texas had Alabama in its sights last week, didn't have the offensive firepower to put them away.
Mm-hmm.
UTSA offense is legit, moves at a completely different speed than anything Texas has seen yet this season.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Ewers again out, sprained clavicle. Texas offense pretty much non-existent after he left the game last week.
Yes.
Can the Sunbelt magic continue?
Mm.
Could Texas almost beat Alabama and then lose at home to UTSA in consecutive weeks?
Good. I could see that actually.
I could too. This game, keep this one on your radar. UTSA could pull this one off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pick Texas here because difference in conference, right? But with the way the group of 5 teams have been playing right now, don't be stunned if this one happens.
Okay. I went the philosophical route also with this one. All this is not a haiku. If a road runner is trampled by a longhorn and no one can see the game on TV, does it make a sound?
I need to get that philosophy professor we talked about last week.
Apparently, yeah. I don't know where this is coming from. Longhorns, I think win this one. Definitely worth keeping an eye on, though. Our other ranked violence of this weekend, 9 p.m. on ESPN number 13, Miami at, a reeling number 24, Texas A&M. Aggies. The Aggies are favored by 5.5. AJ Fun Index is a depressing 45. We have to come up with a code for what's a good fun index, what's a great fun index. Like I think the 50s are kind of like a baseline. Would you agree?
I think so.
Neither great nor awful, but under 50. Then you're getting into eyeball bleeding territory, I believe.
Yeah,
is that summary?
I think so. Maybe 45 is the cutoff.
Okay, that could be.
That would be 21. That's 3 scores.
That's true. Anyway, we got Miami at Texas A&M. What do you think?
How did the Aggies respond? Right, that's the storyline here. After getting, this is in my notes, getting embarrassed at home by App State, because that wasn't just a loss, that was a beating.
App State held that ball from the middle of the third quarter to the middle of the fourth quarter, or a little bit low. And how do you can't beat that. Doesn't matter who you are or who you playing. If you can't get your hands on the football,
right?
Game's over.
Yeah, App State plays the best game of keep away ever. I mean that's really how they won that game. So you've got that big question on the home sideline, and then you have the perennial question: is Miami legit this year? Right? We're constantly having that conversation. Miami's putting up huge offensive numbers right now, but it's all against cupcakes. The one real number that could be a factor here, though, Texas A&M's defense is weaker against the run. They have a stronger pass defense than they do a rush defense, and Miami has put up nearly 250 yards rushing per game in its first 2 weeks.
It's like Miami has a new head coach who's an offensive lineman or something.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. So that'll be an interesting statistical battle to see it. Can the Miami run game make a difference here? I have no idea who to pick in this game because I don't know what the mentality is of Texas A&M. It's kind of a do or die right now for the Aggies.
Yeah.
So I feel like playing at home, they're going to figure out a way to rally and win this game. But is Jimbo in the hot seat? So I saw an interesting stat. I'm going over my time here, but I saw a really interesting stat that compared the first 50 games of Kevin Sumlin's tenure at Texas A&M to Jimbo Fisher's tenure at Texas A&M, and their records are identical by 1 game.
That's not good news for Jimbo. Oh boy. This is a situation that's a little bit if you're talking about the visiting team, it's a situation very similar to BYU. That you have a program that has reputation of the high powered offense. We're gonna throw the ball everywhere. But that perception may not be a reality, and especially with Mario returning to the U. It was clear the change that he made at Oregon, and what he did with that offense, and he is evidently looking to do the same with his Hurricanes. I think if they get the run game going,
yeah,
and get going downhill, and picking up some momentum, I think this is a Texas A&M team that could just kind of fold up if they are faced with a physical run oriented offense and they're getting beaten. Miami, I'm picking Miami to win this on the road. I'm not. I don't feel like, and I felt this, since the discussions. I think there were NIL things between Jimbo and Nick Saban over the summer. It feels like Jimbo's a little desperate. Does that mean that he doesn't really he knows he doesn't really have a team there that contend for a national title? I don't know. If Miami gets its running game going, I think they could win this game pretty. They could win this game on the road. 10 p.m. past Uncle Crappy's bedtime, but we're going to talk about this anyway. On ESPN2, the two most Midwestern-y teams on the West Coast face off in Salt Lake City. San Diego State at number 14. Utah. The Utes are favored by 21 points. The AJ Fun Index is a barely acceptable 49 points. What do you think?
This is a must-win game for the Utes, right? Yep. After losing in the Swamp, which now doesn't look like quite as good of a loss after Florida got beat by Kentucky. That's another thing that happened that we all forgot about this weekend.
I watched that one, and I had not forgotten. Big fun. I bet David was pleased.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun here. But this is a must-win game for Utah. If they want to have any hopes of getting into the playoff, they cannot lose this game at this point. They also have an opportunity here to make a statement, and yes, it's late, but it is a nationally televised game, right? So it's on ESPN2. So hopefully, they would get the opportunity to make another statement here. The San Diego State defense this year is not great. They gave up 400 yards, or averaging giving up 400 yards per game against Arizona and Idaho State.
Idaho?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's
yeah, this isn't the San Diego State that we've been used to the last couple of seasons. It doesn't seem like. So I'm taking the Utes at home, but might be intriguing for the first half.
I think it's interesting in that these are football programs that aren't what you would consider to be typical West Coast football programs, and I'm only half joking about the Midwestern-y thing. One of these teams hung with Ohio State for nearly the entire Rose Bowl, made me sweat my butt off on New Year's Day. The other is coached by a Michigan guy who never seemed to be sure whether or not he was playing Ohio State or Ohio. So I'm picking the Utes all day, every day in this one. Boys and girls, you can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can watch us on YouTube or on the show's Facebook page, or both if you want. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. Be sure to come back next week to see exactly how wrong we were. Carla, it's your big chance. One final thing.
Yes. Actually, it's three very quick final things.
Oh, jeez.
Because it's a lightning round show, right?
Okay.
Undefeated Cal at Notre Dame. Notre Dame can't let this happen 2 weeks in a row, can they?
Careful, folks. Be careful.
Also at 2:00 on ESPN Plus, so it's paywalled. Sorry. Tulane at Kansas State immovable object versus unstoppable force. These are two of the best defenses in the country. I don't care what. I didn't even look to see what the over under was on this, the AJ Fun Index. Take the under. Kansas State, because I'm a big. I used to manage the Big 12 when I was at that other place that I used to work. So I have an affinity for Kansas State. So
okay.
So go Purple Cats. Also, last thing, how wild is college football right now?
It's crazy.
Your 2-0 Kansas Jayhawks are sitting atop the Big 12 standings. And they're at the top because they're the only team that has won a conference game because they beat West Virginia. So they are literally at the top of the Big 12 standings. They are on the road this week at Houston. So, hey, Rock Chalkers, go screenshot those standings right now.
Do it now. Do it now.
Because going on the road to Houston, that's a big ask for this team. But, yeah, college football, you're the best.
Oh, this is so awesome. I had to look because you brought this up. Tulane has allowed an average of 5 points per game. Kansas State has allowed an average of 6 points per game so far. The Kansas State is favored by 14.5. The AJ Fun Index is 45, which sounds about right for that kind of effort. Maybe even take the under on that one. That's interesting. I've been watching. As you guys are aware, I've made it made it a point to emphasize the team up north as in direct proportion to how much I want to beat them at the end of this season. And interesting thing has transpired up there. If you're wondering about Jimmy and what he's doing with his quarterbacks, if you think back to the days when he was the head coach of the 49ers, and this will give you a pretty clear picture, I think, of what we can expect from Michigan this season and for the next year or two. This get a clear picture because they're the parallels here. Recall the pivotal season that began with Alex Smith as the 49ers starter. He was playing well, did nothing to play himself out of the position. The Niners had a great start to the year. The only thing that happened was he got a concussion, had to sit out for a game or two. At that point, that opened the door for Colin Kaepernick, who closed it rather forcefully behind him. And Harbaugh did not look back either. There is, this occurred to me, and it would help to read a thing in the Ann Arbor News. There's an offense that Harbaugh wants to run. And he has been unable to, through, I'm going to blame him because he's supposed to be a good recruiter, and he could not get himself a quarterback who could run the offense the way he wants to run the offense. It involves a mobile quarterback, and he's never really had one at Michigan. He did not have one last year when, even though the offense had a great season with Cade McNamara. He has one now. JJ McCarthy, McNamara started the game against Hawaii. JJ McCarthy came in later, and I believe on I don't know, it was right immediately after the game or the thing on Monday. Harbaugh said JJ McCarthy is our starting quarterback, and all the blah 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 blah. We have two great quarterbacks, and we're going to start both of them, and it's garbage. Because that's not that. This is what happened with Alex Smith. And Alex Smith never saw the field the rest of the way that season. And Colin Kaepernick took the 49ers to the Super Bowl. So I think we have there are a couple things going on here. Number one, does McNamara stay? Did Alex Wilson stay? Or excuse me, Alex Smith stay? No, he did not. McNamara has 2 years of eligibility left after this season. I don't think there's any way in hell he's going to go find himself a team with a gigantic offensive line where he can be safe being a drop back quarterback and put up some numbers and see if he can move on to the league. McCarthy, this is clearly the guy, and I'm curious about what's going to happen with Michigan if Jimmy has finally got himself the tools that he's wanted this whole time. I'm betting this is going to be a different and more prolific Michigan offense than we've seen maybe at any point since Harbaugh's in there, because he's found his Colin Kaepernick in Ann Arbor, and has decided to ride him however long it's going to take. So that's what's going on up north. I will. You guys don't have to watch. I will continue to monitor this situation for you, and report in occasionally, as I continue to obsess with gaining my revenge in November. Carla, thank you once again for an enjoyable. This was fun, an enjoyable speed round.
Yes, it was. It was an exercise again, but it was good. We got through a lot of games, and
we're gonna have to think about we're gonna have to think about the haiku thing.
Gosh,
that's interesting. It is. I think we could. I mean, not for 8 games or however many that we talked about today, but maybe.
Oh.
Maybe.
Okay.
At any rate, cheers to you.
Cheers.
Boys and girls, thank you for listening and watching. Cheers to you guys as well. Be sure to come back here next week. We will do this all again, maybe not at quite the same pace or as many games, or maybe we will. We have no idea.
We have no idea.
There it is. There's the guy. We have no idea. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you back here again next week. Beat Michigan.